Israeli soldiers are now inside Gaza, carrying out the next phase of this war on Hamas.
In addition to the escalation on the ground, the military says it carried out hundreds of airstrikes hitting Hamas underground targets over the weekend. Meanwhile, communications have been restored to much of the enclave. Roughly 34 hours went by this weekend with a complete communication blackout. Much of Gaza remains under complete siege, meaning electricity, food, water, and aid are limited. The communications blackout coincides with the IDF ramping up its efforts to destroy a network of tunnels that is believed to be hundreds of miles long under the Gaza Strip. They say the intricate system is used by Hamas militants to store supplies, hostages, and as a method also of safe passage among and around the areas of the enclave.
CBS News senior foreign correspondent Charlie D'Agata joins us now from Tel Aviv. Charlie, good to see you. I was standing right where you were just recently, and things have been changing minute to minute. So where are they right now in terms of the IDF's operations inside Gaza?
Yeah, well, Tony, we first get the information from the IDF themselves, who said that they are advancing kilometers at a time. And that was a brief that we got this morning, that they're advancing on essentially two fronts in the Gaza Strip. And as you know, Gaza Strip's only 5 to 7 miles wide at its widest. And we've also seen video, trying to verify it looks to be legit, of Israeli tanks that have actually approached Gaza City. Now, Gaza City itself is massive, so that almost stretches all the way to the Gaza border anyway. But what we have seen, we went down to the border ourselves. You've been there. It's still noisy. There's a lot of outgoing artillery, but not nearly the intensity that we witnessed maybe 48 hours ago. Still airstrikes. We saw some huge airstrikes off in the distance, and some outgoing as well. In fact, we went to an apartment in Sderot that had actually been hit this morning. So even though Hamas is sort of pinned down, they are still managing to fire these rockets. And the Israeli Defense Forces say, as long as this continues, Hamas remains a threat. So they're making advances, but Hamas is still capable of firing back if and when they can.
Charlie, we were just talking about how over the weekend, for most of the weekend, Gaza was without communication. This is on top of the escalating humanitarian crisis, the need for all kinds of essential aid, water, electricity, food. So talk to us about what was the impact of the blackout in communication on top of what is happening in Gaza.
Yeah, well, Lilia, first of all, it hasn't really been reported or confirmed as to whether this was an intentional thing by Israeli Defense Forces or whether it was just a consequence and the result of the mass bombardment that took place primarily on Friday night going into early Saturday morning. But aid agencies, Amnesty International, the UN, said what you've done is just put a blackout where we need to communicate with our people inside Gaza. And that's the same for us. You know, Marwan, our producer, who's been working inside Gaza, that went black for us too. So it hurts journalists who are trying to get the stories out, and it also hurts aid agencies who are trying to communicate. We all know, we've been reporting for the past few weeks how dire the situation is there. So it was not only a blackout in communication, people trying to communicate within Gaza itself, but inside the Gaza territory, people communicating with one another. Now, the Israelis have been dropping these leaflets. They've continued to do it, trying to tell people to move from north to south. But when you've got fuel deficiencies and a blackout and communication deficiencies, it makes it much more difficult, not to say the least dangerous, for anybody who's left in northern parts of Gaza to move to the south, where we can report with some confidence those areas are also being bombarded.
You know, Charlie, the politics of Israel could have a big impact on how this war is pursued. And so it's with that in mind that I ask you about this video that Hamas has released, apparently showing 3 hostages blaming Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu for the war in Gaza. I haven't seen this video myself. What can you tell us about it?
Well, Tony, as you're well aware, we have to be careful of video like this. And Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said this was a cruel use of propaganda. So in the video that we've seen, and we also have to be careful about what we did see and what we can report, because we have to assume that the 3 hostages, Israeli hostages, as we understand, were under duress. But as you said, deeply critical of the Prime Minister. And then they go on to suggest that some sort of deal was made and that Israel decided not to go ahead with that. Again, this was probably done under duress. You can see after 23, 24 days of captivity, you can see the strain on their faces. So it's tough to watch. It will be tough for us to report on it because we have to decide how we're going to use it best. We don't want to fall propaganda to Hamas videos, but the bottom line, I guess the top line, is that the blame is on the Israeli government primarily. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu suggesting that a hostage deal, a prisoner swap could be underway, but it's the Israeli government who put the brakes on it. Of course, this is what Hamas has been saying for weeks. We're willing to trade these hostages, otherwise they're going to be in danger, as we've seen for ourselves.
All right, Charlie, I really appreciate your work there, ongoing work as it is. Have a good evening and a safe one.
President Biden spoke with Benjamin Netanyahu yesterday. During their call, the president urged the Israeli prime minister to increase the humanitarian flow of aid into Gaza.
National Security Council Coordinator for Strategic Communications, that would be John Kirby. He spoke to me earlier on CBS Mornings about the Biden administration's response.
We are not evaluating each and every strike they take, and we're not going to react in real time to each and every operation that they conduct. We have been in constant communication with the Israelis, including over the weekend, as you rightly noted, from the president at his level with Prime Minister Netanyahu, to stress the importance of respect for innocent civilian life, to respect the law of war, and to minimize casualties to the maximum extent possible.
For more, CBS News White House reporter Bo Erickson joins us now. Bo, communications in Gaza were, as we were just mentioning, partially restored following President Biden's call with the Israeli prime minister. The lack of communication was also impacting the flow of aid into Gaza. What do you know about those talks? Did Biden have something to do with the restoring of communications?
Well, President Biden has spoken several times with Prime Minister Netanyahu since those October 7th attacks. And in each one of these phone calls, President Biden has reiterated that Israel has the right to defend itself, but they've really been more outspoken here at the White House that that right to defend itself comes with the requirements that the operation has to be consistent with international humanitarian law. And here in Washington, President Biden has been facing some more criticism, even from within his own party, to be a little bit more firm with what that means when it comes to his conversations with President Netanyahu. There were several Democratic senators, including Senator Elizabeth Warren, Chris Murphy from Connecticut, and several others throughout the country who this weekend were calling for a humanitarian pause and in turn trying to push the U.S. to try to advocate for that. There was that phone call this weekend, and the president did make this call. It seems like some communications are there. We don't have complete clarity in that, but there is some indication that there has been more aid flowing because the International Red Crescent humanitarian relief organization said that they were able to get in 3 humanitarian aid trucks into Gaza. But as we all know, looking at these pictures, 3 trucks in a weekend, it will not be enough.
You know, Bo, the United States conditions aid to any country, military weapons as well, on the use of those weapons in accordance with international law. So I was curious to ask John Kirby this morning whether the U.S. was comfortable with the way that Israel was attacking targets in Gaza. And he said quite openly that they're not reviewing each and every strike, which I think surprised me a little bit, particularly since we've heard from the Biden administration, from Joe Biden himself, that he's talking to Netanyahu and asking the IDF to make this really strong push to minimize civilian casualties. Do you have any information on how those conversations are going between Biden and Netanyahu, how the calls are being received?
Well, and that was the key question to ask, because the president and his administration for the past few weeks has given a really full-throated endorsement of basically whatever Israel wants to do. It said they were not going to dictate what they wanted to do. But at the end of last week, we started to hear some more distance from officials here at the White House being placed between the Biden administration and the exact operations of the Israeli military. Specifically, John Kirby, who you interviewed, said that Israel has to answer the questions of the soundness of planning and the effectiveness of its execution. And so what we kind of read the tea leaves around here at the White House, what that tells us is that the Biden administration does not want to have to answer for everything that the Israeli military does. But I don't know how long that argument will stand because of all that aid and military aid that the United States is giving to the Israeli military, as well as there is a growing group of House Democrats just down the street calling for a complete ceasefire. So there is a political element to this that the president and the White House have to address as well.
And Bo, on the domestic front, the Biden administration has been taking action to address the rising number of anti-Semitic incidents being reported at schools and college campuses. There's also, of course, Islamophobic attacks, including the killing of a young child in this country. What do the efforts from the White House look like?
So the White House here has been really focused on kind of the larger scale operations over in Israel and what is happening. But as we have seen, these instances and these clashes on our college campuses and in our towns all throughout the country have just been really broiling. So the White House says that they are alarmed at the anti-Semitic incidents on college campuses all throughout the country. And this morning they were announcing that the administration, the Department of Health and Department of Homeland Security, has been briefing college campuses, specifically the law enforcement divisions there, on how to deal with some of these instances. And also the administration is trying to put together some process that students will be able to file federal discrimination complaints on anti-Semitism as well.
Bo Erickson, thank you so much.